I'm taking into people's garages and I'm filling your garage up with 7 motorcycles here, 7 motorcycles here, 7 motorcycles here. The last one, the sun's coming up, and this one has gas in it. And I look at my buddy Brian, I said, when we get to the street, I'm gonna start this. And I ride it. As the sun was coming up, I ride it from Lancaster to Quartz Hill, and I show up to my friend's house that morning. I'm talking like 6 a.m., and I wake him up, and I said, this one's yours.
Garet, how are you doing today, buddy?
Dude, I'm doing amazing, man. If I was doing anything better, bro, they'd be writing a book about me. You know?
Well, the day's not over. We could
definitely get over,
into
right?
The book, man. Just so grab a cup of coffee, get a pen, let's get started. You know? Well, you're a coffee drinker, I take it.
I've been a coffee drinker all my life. I love coffee. It's I love the caffeine. I drink Folgers, and then I probably am a Folgers drinker because of prison. And I went from instant to the drip, you know, but just something about it's not the gunpowder like you get inside the jail systems out here in LA, but because that stuff it puts hair on your chest. But I'm a Folgers in my cup, daily drinker.
Nice, man.
2 cups a day. A very strong coffee. Yeah, what do you drink out there? I mean, what is it you drink out? I mean, what's your...
I drink red, white, and badass brew, man. Coffee is bold as American spirit.
Nice.
I love it. I drink some other coffees too, but it's the coffee.
Cheater.
Yeah. Well, it's my coffee, so I'm kind of partial to it, you know?
Nice.
So, yeah, man. Do you think the world's problems can be solved over a cup of coffee?
I absolutely think so. I think that most of the world's problems are resolved over a cup of coffee, no matter of a low scale to a high scale, you know. And I think that coffee is present. You know?
Yeah.
Something that's stimulation in the brain. I think it just makes all the conversations better.
Yeah, man, wakes you up, kind of gets you that, like, the juice is flowing. You're like, man, now I can really start my day. You know,
correct.
Now the fog is kind of worn off, you know. Well, you've had a kind of a hell of a story, man, because of how you grew up, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before coffee.
Before coffee, before you were consuming Folgers, you know.
Before coffee. Yes.
Yeah. So go into it, man. Like what transpired?
Man, I'll go back, you know, give an idea of page by page. My in the beginning, my parents were married. We had that California dream of parents were married. I got an older sister. We had that. Horses in the backyard, the 2 dogs, loving, Christmases were full of family and friends and Christmas presents. And I have some very good memories of those days. And, of course, you don't get to see the deeper, maybe inside of the pictures of what's going on behind the scenes because we were just kids and we were playing and back in our days, it was kids outside, parents inside, and leave the parents alone, And for me, like a lot changed or happened once my parents got divorced. I remember sitting on that bar and the parents come in and as a child, like I couldn't notice or didn't notice anything wrong with the way my parents were, or any. I didn't see no trouble, as a kid at this age, around 4 years old. Like I can't notice like that they had any hiccups or anything inside their relationships.
They really isolated that from you, huh? You and
They're
your
really
sister?
isolated. And we had a real big house, and I mean, like, they were all like on one side and we were on the other. And I just remember that one day though, sitting on that counter and them saying, hey, explaining the divorce process of them splitting up and not understanding, not knowing what that, I'm 4, my sister's 5. And I'll tell you what happened is that I stayed with my mom, and I stayed, and I'll tell you later on in the story. Like I stayed through my mom, through thick and thin, through everything. That even when I probably should have left, I never left my mom's side, and I didn't see my dad that much growing up. Like I see him in summers, and my dad moved out a couple places out of locally. He moved to like miles away. I remember summer vacations with dad, and Disneyland with my dad, but I do remember we went to the smaller house, me and my sister, and we went to school, and I remember coming home and there's another guy on the couch, and I know from that point, I know for the next man, I mean, it must have been 10 years, if not longer. A lot of the abuse and the drama, and then I was really able to see the alcoholism and the drug addiction and the full flight from reality of because I was in it, A couple of years later, my older sister goes and lives with my dad. And that's because living with my mom and her new boyfriend at this time, or temporary boyfriend, or whoever, this guy, like it was the hardships in it was me and my sister in back of a truck going through a field while they're swinging on each other inside the cab of it. Alcohol and drugs was always present. They would have like now we're older and people are coming to the house and it's just terrifying madness at the end of the night. Like I'm the house that the cops came to our house for domestic disputes and domestic violence and all that stuff. It's happening at our house on the block. And not only that is that we couldn't stay. My mom, we never stayed in one spot. It was a constant move every few months, or move there, and move here, apartment to a house to apartment, to back to grandma's house, and then a wide range. And I like to think that if you would have asked me 10 years ago if that was something that affected you growing up, I would have said no, right? Because I wasn't able at those times to go in to think about and to bring all that, to relive all that stuff and to work through it. But
well, so from 4 years old,
yeah,
when you moved out, you started just kind of, you had no sense of really safety because your mom, was it immediately that she just started having guys over? It was pretty immediately. I mean, I can't really think of the time frame wise, but it was I want to say that it was, pretty soon, Was it abuse from your mom and her boyfriend abusing you guys?
All the abuse came from the guys that she brought home. My mom was very loving and compassionate, And the thing is that my mom was in the abusive relationships, and I was just that child that got to witness all that abuse. And the abuse, a lot of it probably came from the drugs and the alcohol that they were consuming during the days and nights, and then the fighting, and then the lovey-dovey of them back together, and it was just like a cycle, constantly.
What kind of drugs would they be using?
Oh, the drugs were, it was hard liquor at night and methamphetamine, during the day, I think back then it was even methamphetamine. Back then it was probably crank, you know, the good stuff, you know. No wonder they were fighting. No.
Oh man. And so what, and kind of these guys would come and just abuse you. And what kind of abuse did you endure?
What abuse is this, is that I would see my mom. I was young. I wasn't as tall. I wasn't tall. I'm a young man. I'm in, you know, say I'm a tall 8-year-old or 9-year-old. And the thing is abuse wise, I would talk about is I would see him I would see my mom get beat up many times from the age of 6 years old, 5 years old, maybe, you know, until I was 14, because 13, but because finally I got to where I was the height of these men. And what it is I was a protector of my mom, a defender, right? And what does a child want to see? I don't want to see my mom in the pain and the hurt. And what happened is that I would get resentful and very like full of hate towards these men. And even though I'd be like a dog, just, you know, I attack them. Like at time they would early in the year, we'd be in our room and they'd be fighting out there, and I was scared. It was scared, you know, it was scared for us. Like we hear them yelling and screaming, and you hear the bouncing off the walls, and you wake up and you see the black eyes and the bruises, and you know, but they're loving, right? And then I get older, and I wasn't allowing that. Like, so as soon as he would raise his voice at my mom, or they start, you know, or they engage in some kind of abuse, I would go after the guy doing it, right? And that went on for years. Any boyfriend my mom had, or any guy that was around that you know, you're not going to yell at my mom. You're not going to, you know.
Yeah. You just ended up fucking scrapping with these guys.
Yeah, I just scrapped with all of them, you know. From front in the house, in the bath. I mean, baths. I see him in public places, you know. Like it was like like it wasn't happening, you know.
Yeah. So you said you see him in public places, and then you. Yeah,
like I see him at the local liquor store, Hardy's Liquor or Mike's Liquor, or I see him, you know, and this is what happened. So at a very young age, you know, and my mom, she gets away, she gets back, she gets away, she gets back, and you know, and so then I have another sister. She has another kid, you know, with this guy, you know, that, you know, I got a baby sister now, and now it's just getting very, very crazy. But I'm bigger and more of a protector now. So now I'm protecting my little sister and my mom. And like, for instances, it gets really bad at the house. My mom and her boyfriend and the drugs and the violence and all this stuff. Like we live in this back house and it gets really bad. And I'm fighting, and like he gets drunk and rages. He's dragging me through the liquor store, you know, like and all this stuff. And at times I couldn't do nothing. He's a grown man. I'm in the 5th grade. You know, I'm a big kid, but I'm in the 5th grade. But I remember being, you know, dragged to the store to get some bread and milk because I refused to obey this man or give him any kind of respect because of what's going on in the home. And it gets really bad for my mom, and my mom finally, you know, my little sister's born, and we move out to like this ranch house out in the middle of nowhere. And there's times when I would come outside, and like my mom would be he would be attacking her in the car down the street with my little sister in there, and I would run like a block, you know, and to intervene, you know. And there's nights that he'd be at the house. This one particular night now, as I'm older and I'm getting more into guns and stuff, and like they're fighting, and the drugs are heavier. Like the drugs never got less and less. It wasn't like my mom was like, no, the drugs are heavier and heavier. More people, you know, more this habit, this lifestyle that I thought was normal, right? And one night, like she ran in my room and she grabbed my rifle, my hunting rifle, And I heard them fighting out there. She always told me, hey, safety. She caught me, the proper safety. And I remember standing in the hallway watching her pull this trigger as this guy was coming, towards on the hallway. Cause it's a bloodbath,
Yeah.
and I'm watching and just to think that in a different circumstances, if if that safety wasn't on that gun, she would have blew him. She would have shot him right there in that hallway, and I watched as she was pulling the trigger, it's not firing. And he runs forward and she sticks the nuzzle and they go through the back door, of the house. And that's what I went through,
At that moment, did he continue to beat up your mom?
At that moment, they continued to fight on the ground. They're in the backyard fighting. I grabbed the gun. At this time, it was in the situations like this. It's like she would do stuff like that, and then I would just start wailing. I would just go. That's pretty much how I learned to fight. And is that like these guys? I would remember I would start fighting them. And at this time, the gun, they're on the ground. I jump on the guy, trying to pull him off. And then sooner or later, like they finally disperse, and then my mom, we sit there and love on him. It'd be different, and it was never different, it just get worse, maybe a different guy. She had this, I remember this other guy too. And I was younger. We were playing flag football in the street, or not even flag football. We were playing tackle football on the street. That's what we did as kids. And he ran out of the house because I think I was supposed to clean the stables, or I did something and I was supposed to do something and I didn't. And I was out there playing with my friends, and I remember the boyfriend running outside and tackled me down the street, and I ripped, blood all the way down, and
wow, man.
Yeah,
that's
just wild stuff, man.
Not really any environment a child should be growing up in, What? So I imagine this probably caused just more than just trouble at the house, right? I mean, you probably at school.
At school, what happens at school is that by this time I'm junior high and high school. What you do is that, as I grew up, is that everything that's going on at home, that stays at home. And so I'm not going to school sharing about none of this stuff. I'm at school. I like to say that my focus was on my work there, but it wasn't, I'm barely passing because I can barely get to school because my mom's not, she's not really dependable. Now she's staying up all night and falling asleep in the morning and sometimes doesn't wake up. And so I don't have none of the structured life, that kids need or people need to grow up. I'm riding a bus, I'm riding a bus to school, and I don't talk about none of that stuff. I go to school and I'm on my bus. Like my school was my escape. Like I wake up, I eat breakfast at school. I get to participate the best I can in these classes or PE or sports, and then I go home and I had motorcycles, or I lived on. My mom had horses there, and I sort of just did my own thing, tinker with that. And at this time too, what I did have is I had a grandma, and grandma would always take me. I go to my grandma's. I go to my grandma's house. I go to my aunt's house. I spent lots of time with my aunt and uncle and grandma. I'd be at their house because my house was dysfunctional, and I go to my dad's, and it really seems like I go to my dad's every other weekend or something like that, but that's sort of, I'm getting older and I'm not going there as much.
Yeah.
And this is what goes down to is that I knew at this time, I know what drugs are. My mom, I'm going with my mom to store and pick up drugs when she, I know what drugs are. I'm the houses I'm going to, the kids that are there too. We all know what drugs are. I'm sneaking in school. I got some kids we're smoking pot. We're drinking our parents' liquor. I'm getting little bits and pieces of my mom's drugs, and we're all experimenting. And what happens is that I meet my mom. My mom gets with this guy who who is a connection, right? He's a drug dealer. And and this guy is not a physical mean or anything like that. This guy is, he carries himself in a different way. He's not one of these guys that I've been beaten up he treats my mom respectfully when. And the thing is I sit and watch this guy and what he does, and he has all the stuff: cars, motorcycles, house, pool tables. And that's where my life was. Is that's the guy that got my attention. So here I am in the 7th and 8th grade, and I start hanging out with this guy. And I'll tell you what I'm very grateful for is that I remember going to, I think I only went to maybe one dance throughout my whole life in schools, but that 8th grade graduation dance, that guy, that drug dealer, right? He must have knew my mom was on that path of addiction, right? Mm-hmm. Took me under his wing a little bit as a father figure. He dressed me all up as a kid. I didn't come from nothing. I didn't, I don't know what the battlefield was between my mom and dad or something like that. But this guy gets me the slacks and the shoes and a nice shirt and irons, cleans me all up here, all this stuff, and takes me to the dance and drops me off, And I only reason I graduated the 8th grade and they probably let me walk. I didn't walk with the class. My grades, I don't think were good, but I was so big. I'm 6'2" or 3, in 8th grade.
Yeah,
right?
That's a big kid.
And they put me into high school. And what happened at high school is now is something that clicked in that summer. Something clicked in that summer that whether it was the weed smoking, I've been doing it recreational pot smoking and drinking peppermint schnapps, and we have bonfires. I lived on a ranch, and all the guys would come over on our motorcycles, and we all sit back there. We drank peppermint schnapps and smoke weed until we passed out. We sneak out our parents' cars, and since I was the biggest one, I drive to Mr. C's arcade, and we go fucking blow all the money that we had on Cruising USA. That was
oh my God.
Right. We cruise USA and we go home something happened at my house. My mom ended up going to jail. She gets arrested. I moved from this ranch house into town. I go and live with my grandma. That guy that I was talking about, that I've been hanging out with since the 7th grade, who I've been watching sell drugs. I go with him to sell drugs. It's like the whole time that he schooled me. Like I finally learned a way to really to maybe get myself a new pair of shoes, clean shirts to wear, pants, right?
So by the time really grooming you to be his little drug dealer.
Yeah, that's all it was. And he was a father figure, in a way. I'm thinking he's a father figure. I mean, maybe he's just grooming me he has a son that's a little older than me, that's in juvie, right? And since I'm hanging out with him and I'm doing all this stuff, like the next thing I know, I'm in it. What am I learning? Bagging, weighing, drugs, and I don't ask him, and then I don't ask him, and then I ask him. And then the next thing I know, I'm doing it, and I'm not only doing it, that I'm finding means and ways that I can earn an extra dollar, and I become you become a hustler in a way,
Well, so your mom went to prison. What'd you go to prison for?
She didn't go to prison. She went to jail. And I remember that day when we got pulled over, what I was told that she went to jail for. And to this day, I don't know, because I never really asked that she had traffic tickets. It could have been a possession. It probably was a possession, right? But I was told, I'm still a kid. You're still a kid.
Sure.
I was told that it was traffic. She went there for traffic tickets.
She went to jail for traffic tickets, which is kind of probably unlikely.
That makes sense, doesn't it? Like, hey, doesn't that make sense? What are you going to tell your kids, right? You ain't going to tell them that I got a drug charge. No,
right.
They got a traffic ticket. They have to go to jail, right? And I don't really remember how long. It was a couple months or 6 months. I just know that I moved into town. I met this kid named Nick. I knew that drug dealer guy, right? I remember this. I I remember my first day of high school. I went and did my classes and all this stuff. And at this time, I'm already full-fledged this is like before crystal meth. I'm doing the crank and this cat piss, and I'm full on. My addiction to this drug is fun. It's in me. I have to have it, right? I'm already learning how to make. I'm learning how to sell a little, to support my habit, and maybe get a new pair of shoes and use it as a manipulation device.
And this is ninth grade,
right? Yeah.
Wow.
And so,
where was your dad throughout this whole time?
My dad, something happened between us at this time. I think that maybe it was the jealousy of me not wanting to go to my dad's house. My dad's around, and I really don't have the answer to why. Maybe it was just that I went down this other path. Like I remember I go to my dad's house, and what would I do there is I literally go out with my sister to the most epic house parties ever, right? But and I go hang out. We go swimming at the grandparents. My dad got remarried, and we go swimming. We hang out. We do all this stuff there. But I'm already addicted to this drug. So what I'm doing is I'm going there, and for one day, right? I've been up probably who knows how long. I'm going there. I'm detoxing, right? I'm going there. I'm eating food. I'm getting some sleep, right? I'm 3 days later or 2 days later, I'm coming back home, and I'm right back to that same cycle, right? And then maybe I go, and that's all. That to me is just a couple day detox. I'm going over there. I'm taking. Now I'm not doing the drugs. I'm just drinking liquor. Right? Because over there, liquor's cool. You can drink here. My dad thinks you can drink liquor here, but no drugs at the house. Cool. I go there. I just drank. I drank with the rest of them, And when I drank, when I drank and I'm coming down, like I'm out. You give me a couple beers, give me a couple of shots. I'm at night. I'm going to bed. You give me some food in my system. I'm passing out. Like I'm not staying up to party no more. Right? I'm like, I'll go to the car. Where's the keys to the car? Like, I'm going to sleep, right? And and my sisters, man, I have some sisters and stuff, man. They took me. It was the best. Those back in the days, those house parties that we went to were just like the highlight. I mean, I was young. I'm a freshman in high school. These are all seniors, and and they're just we're meeting at Taco Bell's 50 deep. And we're the chains. It must have been like 25 to 30 cars rolling up to these parties, and it's just like, and we're getting wild, but I never man. Did. The thing is I lived that double life in a way because I never wanted them. I never would bring drugs around those areas with me. I would just drink. And when I went back, it seemed like I lived on the other side of the tracks. I call this place Little Alcatraz now. I live with my grandma lives in a little bedroom apartment. My mom lives in the next. We stay right there in this little building, and it's infested with drugs. People living in the backyard. I'm meeting all these people who I soon become like, and I'm a bicycle rider, so I'm selling 20s. I used to go over and I sell drugs in these apartment, I sell drugs, 20s in these apartment complexes. I'm finding new places to get stuff and score it, to break it up. I go sell them inside these apartment complexes, that's it, man. And all of a sudden that going to those parties and hanging out with my sisters was less and less because my time's going by faster and faster.
Yeah. Well, that's wild that you were able to separate, Little Alcatraz from the Hollywood parties, so to speak, you know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
Because that is, that's pretty wild, man. That, because usually you don't separate them. Usually you they intertwine somehow. Yeah.
Well, my dad always said that he always, at a young age, like he caught my sister with weed or something like that. And I respected my dad. I loved my dad. I respect him, and he told me none of that stuff at his house.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the more I'm doing this stuff, the less and less I'm going to his house because I'm not trying to, I'm on this other side.
Yeah. You're not trying to detox.
Yeah. I'm not trying to detox no more.
Yeah. Hey, Cat Badasses, our Patreon is live and accepting memberships right now. And for only $3 a month, you get some cool benefits with it. Chance to win Red, White, and Badass Brews coffee every month and exclusive content, just to name a few. So go to the link, go to our Patreon account, and become a Cab Badass member. So you kind of, you're going down now, you're pretty much full-fledged drug dealer at this point.
Yeah.
And this is like full-fledged drug dealer addict at ninth grade. Full-fledged
drug dealer addict, freshman year, high school. I don't know if it was my freshman year. I don't really, I remember my mom, that stuff happened with my mom. I ended up getting this is young. Now I'm full-fledged into the game. I now at this time I met some guys that are older than me, gang members, and I'm immediately into this Peckerwood scene on the streets. I'm attracted to the tattoos and everything they have, and I might be young, but I'm tall, and there's a group of us, and drugs is a thing, and we're out there just. I'm big, I'm beating people up and trying to make a dollar and just doing it,
So they kind of took you in, really, kind of as another form of a father. You're looking for something, right? You're missing that in there. You're just missing that sense of family, almost like insecurity, really.
Correct. I'm missing that bond with men and that little, they show me a little bit of that respect and maybe that love of that brotherhood, right? Yep. And that's what gets me. That's what maybe deep down inside that I was attracted to there. So now I'm sitting there and this loyalty and this, oh, we have your. I remember I was at a party, and I forget, man, but I'm at one of those house parties, right? And but it wasn't one of those house parties with my sisters, but I was at another house party now, and I remember the guy that was my brother, right? I'm getting loud with these people at a party. Like they're getting loud with a friend of mine. I step up because I'm bigger. I believe in that brother,hood, If you're fighting him, you're fighting me. That's how it was. And I remember that guy and rest in peace. His name was John LaValle. I remember him stepping up and saying, I got this, looked at me like, don't even worry about it. And I watched him smooth knock this guy out, that brotherhood, like I lived, that guy lived. I lived at his house more than I lived at my own. I didn't. Yeah. I felt too big. I lived with my grandma, my mom, it was my uncle, my little sister, my nephew, all in this one house. And at this point, it's like whether I felt like there's no room or and my mom's boyfriend, there's no, it's a one bedroom, there's no room. And for me, I'm out there in that guy's house, that drug dealer's house. I'm staying there at his house, I'm not sleeping there. I'm staying up every day.
Right.
And I'm finding little recruits for me that I'm, that sound, and I'm going around and all I know is how to hustle and do this stuff on the streets. And I got, and I'm just going home sometimes. And I remember I went home and I told my mom that she should start buying her drugs from me now.
So your mom was home at this point, and so now
my mom was home. My mom's out of jail. My mom, she wasn't gone that long. She was out of jail. She went back one more time in the county jail. My mom wasn't in prison like that. She was she got addicted to drugs later, in her life. She didn't. That she had a great, growing up and all this discipline and structured life But here it is. Now I'm just going home and I'm passing out for days. I'm not going to school. I pretty much at this point dropped out already. And I'm full-fledged. I'm selling drugs. These guys are picking me up from school, in their cars, nice cars, and stuff like that. I'm hanging out with them and just, doing whether we're tripping out in the house thinking some people are coming to attack us, and we're all sitting there with the guns or we're sitting there getting loaded, or we're going over to these other houses and every night was a party.
Yeah.
Every night was a party.
You said rest in peace. Is that guy no longer?
Yeah, he died years ago, 30 years ago. He took his own life with a gun, and not purposely, or maybe it was, we don't know. But yeah, he had a shotgun in his pants, barrel up, and he forgot to take it. Yeah, and he forgot to. And that was back when we were wearing those Jinko pants and everything. And I was at the house. We used to get really high and mess around with guns all of our life, And one of those times I was getting scared because bullets, we're sitting there and he's being a little careless, and he put that Mossberg in his pants, and he as he walked out of that room, he yanked it out of his pants and saw one in the chamber, and it took his head off. And he stayed alive in the hospital for a minute because we had so much drug in our system that his heart wouldn't stop beating for days. His heart, because of the methamphetamine. That's how much methamphetamine we have in our systems.
Oh, fuck. You were there when it happened.
Yeah. And so I was there, but I was not there. Like I'm facing the TV, and he's behind me, and all you do is hear it, and him on the ground. And I'm gonna tell you, once it happened, I left. What can I do? We left. There's people there.
You didn't call 911? You didn't do anything?
911, the police, his girlfriend was there. It was his house. Girlfriend was there, and there's people there and stuff like that, and everybody out of the house. And what it is a person like me leaves with with guns and drugs, and I go back to my house, and I just stay put until I heard further notice, That's all.
Yeah. Were you a full member at this point?
Yeah, I was always, I was a full member from very young, from 15 years old, and a full member. Yeah, a full member, fully in it. And by this time I started, and by this time that abuse is still going on in my house with my mom's boyfriends and stuff like this. And so it comes around now it's like, they're not even, now I'm like, I'm not even tolerating shit. Like if you come at my mom wrong, like we're just going to jump you. And we just jump them drag them out of cars. We jump them, like I full on will go to my house with like 5 or 6 guys and beat the boyfriends till living pulp, and it was like a thing too, to where like I could green light them on the streets, to where like I have younger guys, you're fucked, and what happens is, and this is all before I'm even 18. I'm not even 18 years old yet.
So what's it like as a young man in an adult world with a club, with a motorcycle club?
It's not even a it wasn't even a motorcycle club. This is just a white Peckerwood, gang members, Palmdale Peckerwoods, you say. And,
so they weren't a motorcycle club, but you guys are
no motorcycle club. I really as much as I'm cordial with all these motorcycle clubs and all this stuff like that. Me was I remember being at the house one day, and this guy showed up, and he was older. He had a lot of fresh out of prison, tattooed all up, and this guy was and we're just he was a Palmdale Peckerwood, right? And then if you've ever been to prison, then right, that's what whites that were not a skinhead or not P9 or nothing like that. Like if you're white and you're in jail, you're a Peckerwood, right? And so what happens is I hang out with these Peckerwoods, and I soon belong into this Peckerwood gang, and I'm white, and I go into prison, and I represent white Peckerwood gang members, right? And when I was in jail and prisons, but I go into juvie at the age of like 17. I get out by the time I'm 18, and I immediately go into county jail, and I get out, I do that, and then I immediately at the age of like 19 years old, I'm off to prison.
What?
I go
so you went to so you were 17, and I mean you're doing all this nefarious stuff.
I was my first time in. You gotta figure, like I might be tall, but that's it, dude. I'm sucked. Like I'm skinny. I'm skinny. It was like no muscle has hit my body yet, because I started doing drugs at such a young age. I think it took away from any kind of muscle, and so I'm just looking like a grasshopper. I'm tall, I'm lengthy, I'm still big, but like literally I'm skinny.
Right, you just had functional muscle.
I go into jail, and I went into juvie the same thing. I'm skinny. There's bigger guys there, and I'm getting intimidated by, I don't know the proper, even though I've been on the streets running with these guys and stuff like that, and doing some ruthless stuff. I'm before I was 18, I'm talking like 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm already stealing cars. I'm already G riding. I'm stealing cars. I'm doing home invasions.
What's G-Ride like? When you
G-Ride is before I would even like, my homeboys would show up to my window at the place I'm staying early in the morning, and they would have a Corvette, or they would have like a Formula Trans Am, and I literally would go, we'd go and it'd be 3 of us or 2 of us in it, and we literally would crash it, right, and just leave it and just walk home and get loaded, right? Like, damn, what a great way to start your day, right? Here's a stolen car. Here, I brought this car for you to just go thrash, right? And that's exactly what I did. I would take trucks in the desert and do my own Mickey Thompson racing. I would take stolen cars to the street races and just try to blow them up. I wasn't into like parting them out, I would get cars just literally to rip and roar up and down these streets. They picked me up in this Corvette. I had a friend in the back, front and center. We literally, I don't have no license. I don't have that much experience driving. Cars have way too much power for a person. And I'm flying around corners like I'm on dirt roads in the country. You know how you can slide your cars around. I'm on the streets doing this. I'm hitting the sides. I'm sliding, right? I come around a corner, right? I hit parked cars. I go through a yard. I take out your picket fence, your rose bushes. I crash into your car right in front of your house, right? And we just jump out and run. That's it. And I jump out and run. And then I circle back to the scene to look at it. Like, damn,
Like you're walking back to the scene, or you just get another car?
Get in another car. Most of the time we get in a Toyota Camry. That was easy pickings, right? Or a Saturn, right? And then I remember when the cars came out with airbags, and we just wanted to see what airbags were like. So we crashed them into each other and let them blow up. Or we crashed into a telephone pole, bam, I launched these cars. It seemed like for a period, I was taking these Toyota trucks, and I was just like, I have so much love and respect for your old T100 Toyota pickup trucks, SR5s. Like, those things are unbreakable. Like, you can, we launch them into each other over, like, just straight test, like thrash them like no other. And last truck standing. We bet money on our trucks that we go look for the ones lifted up with the 44s or all this stuff. Let's go look for the baddest truck. And we literally, not because we wanted anything off it to sell, just because because I don't have a car. I don't have none of that nice stuff, right?
You were really living Grand Theft Auto.
Yes, that was to the point, yeah. And that Corvette was one of the funnest ones. I remember that first Corvette was a very that was so fun, And I was young. I'm young. I'm 16. Like, you gotta remember, for a guy like me, I didn't get a driver's license until I wasn't able legally to drive until I was like 34 years old. I didn't get a driver's. I had 168 traffic tickets. I probably lost more cars than a person ever owned in a lifetime. I had one particular car I got when I was 15 from a drug deal. I bought up this guy that I must have got 40 tickets alone in this one car, right? And the thing is because like, once again, my life, I as much as I wanted, like so what do I do?
you get these tickets now, but I mean, you're stealing cars. So you kind of went into, first you just went into drugs, and then you went into stealing cars, having fun, not even selling for money. And then,
not yet.
Also, you started.
But it did. But it all happened. This is all before I'm 18. You know, once I'm 18 and a prison term popped out, and I get out of prison, then it's changing. Now it's drugs.
So you went to juvenile hall though, right? So
juvenile hall was very short lived. I went in there. There was this guy. He was humongous. I'm talking like he was so huge and intimidating, and like he scared the shit out of me. Right? Didn't fight me or nothing like that, but like just the proper schooling of like of how you walk, talk, and who you hang out with, and like if I give you something, you owe me. Type all this stuff, like, you know, and then it's gladiator school. Like, it's just like straight, like you're fighting there for your rank, you know, and this guy just fucking, you know, and he scared the shit out of me, man, you know. And
what'd you go to juvenile hall the first time?
Of course, I fight him. I get fucking my ass handed to me, but I got the respect. It's cool. I'm out of there. I'm out of there shortly. And then that point I turn 18, and now I'm going into county jail. And for a person like me, like I've been in that scene and running with the white guy, you know, and all this stuff that people know me. I'm not no. And so when I go to county jail and I hit this 5,000 floor, or they take us straight to the 9,000 floor and they turn us go, people know who I am and what I do on the streets. I get in, right? And this is what happens. I go into county jail skinny. I go skinny, bro. Like I'm skinny. I'm missing teeth, right? I don't have all my teeth. They're one, maybe every other one. You know, I'm looking like a scarecrow, right? And all of a sudden, I hit this 9,000 floor, and I meet other white guys, and we all stick together, and we're fighting, and we're doing the stuff in there. But the thing is I start working out, and I start eating, and I come out pretty big. But then I go to prison. I mean, now this whole cycle starts.
So what were your charges that landed you into?
I got busted in a stolen car. I remember I got busted as a juvenile, and at 17 or whatever, I got busted in a stolen Chevy truck. And I didn't have the wire. I didn't have my wires twisted right. No brake lights were on it. I got pulled over for no brake lights. You know, so that's you know that. And then by the time and then I go into county jail. It's traffic tickets. Like I'm getting all these traffic tickets of just building up driving no license, stupid shit, you know, just out, you know, it's stupid. And my first term in prison, 20 years old, and it was GTA, stolen car, right? 16 months. And then after that, I get busted for manufacturing, chop shop, arsenal, white supremacist gang member, and from that point forward, it's you never. That's who I am. That's exactly who I am. I might not think that, right? That I have a house that you know that I'm manufacturing methamphetamine at. That I have a minimum of 5 cars that are stolen, chopped up, and I'm selling parts off of. That I have probably a total of 40 stolen motorcycles, because I robbed a whole shop. I didn't rob just I robbed a shop. Took as many motorcycles as I could from the hours of say like 1 a.m. to 4 a.m.
How do you take a whole shop? Like you get a box truck and just load them up?
No, one at a time, dude. And I me, 2 people. It was this is what happened is he snuck in through the sewer and through the back door, like they were doing some construction or something like that. That a friend of mine, I'm selling drugs and to this guy, and I go to his house, and he tells me this whole get down. I'm getting him high. I'm with a partner of mine, and I'm getting him high, and he's telling me and he's like, Garet, you can't do this without me. I want to go with you. Of course, right?
So now you're getting this guy high, and you guys getting this guy high. He's feeding you information about this motorcycle shop that's doing construction, and he says,
Garet, man, and I'm looking at my partner. My partner's name's Brian. I'm looking at him, and I got court. Like, I got court the next day. I have court then. The following day, I know this. I'm gonna tell you this. The following day, I have court. Right? I get in the car. I go outside. I look at my buddy Brian.
What do you have court for?
Let's go cruise by this place. Because I'm one of those guys that I'll be in my car and I will go house to house all day long selling drugs. That's me and my partner. Like, we're just going around. I'm just selling here. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here. I go to Del Taco or Taco Bell. I was a firm believer in a Whopper a day. We'll keep the meth monster away. You know what I'm saying? So I get a Whopper or something. That would fill me up. I had to eat something at least. At least a Whopper was 99 cents. They used to be humongous. And I drive by this place. I'm not going to say no names of it or anything like that, but I drive by and I scope it out and I look at my buddy. I said, he's right. And I told my buddy when I was sitting there with him, because he told me, I said, look, I said, I'll make sure you get a motorcycle out of it. He's like, Garet, please call me. Don't do it. I'm like, I got court tomorrow. So after court, I said, we'll do it. I went there that night. I took, this is how I did it. It was nothing like you would think of like a U-Haul truck or anything like that. I took them one by one. I went inside, I pushed it out. Because I'm in somewhat of a neighborhood, because I'm on the back side. I can't be just starting motorcycles up and moving in and out and making all this noise. I had a rope around the bumper of a Honda XL, and I had my buddy Brian. I knew lots. I know lots of people because of everything I do, and I'm taking into people's garages and I'm filling your garage up with 7 motorcycles here, 7 motorcycles here, 7 motorcycles here, and all the night. And the last one, the sun's coming up, and this one has gas in it. And I look at my buddy Brian. I said, when we get to the street, I'm gonna start this. And I get to that. I'm on Sierra Highway and Avenue K, and I get out there, and this bike pops, and it immediately it goes into like a wheelie. It's a lot of bike. It's a dirt bike, and I ride it that morning. So now this is the morning I got court. I've been taking all these one by one. I've been taking all these motorcycles, and this one, they had like a section of like new, and then partly, and then and then some other ones that pre-owned or whatever type thing. I took pretty much all the pre-owned, some of the news, right? And I knew exactly. I went in there and I got this is mine. I told my buddy, you go in there, whatever one you want. Let's get those off the top, and the rest, just greed. I start this bike up on the street. And I ride it as the sun was coming up. I ride it from there. It must have been 5. I ride it from Lancaster to Quartz Hill, and I remember being on top of Quartz Hill Mountain, looking at the cops patrolling the areas, going the route. And I show up to my friend's house that morning, but I'm talking like 6 a.m., 6:30. I don't know, maybe 7, somewhere in that area. And I wake him up and I said, "This one's yours." And I went to court that next morning, right? And then I went to court that the prolong or whatever, let's just carry this on, continue later on the date. I'm not ready yet. I had many court dates that I was going to that I would just be like extension until I finally get busted for a crime, and they just ran everything concurrent, but all for these petty traffic tickets and all that stuff that was going on. I went to court again, and then I remember his exact words when I saw him and I gave him that motorcycle. He wasn't thankful for the motorcycle. He said, "You went and did it without me."
If you have a heroic story and you'd like to share it, get in contact with us. Our information's in the bio. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, and share. And then I'll see you on the next episode, badasses.